Hey everyone, welcome to this visual study guide where we're going to unpack the ancient title El Gibbor. We're going to trace its historical roots, look at its prophetic fulfillment, and see exactly why this concept remains an absolute cornerstone of biblical theology today. In this explainer, we're diving deep into the source material of the biblical text to uncover the profound meaning behind one of the most powerful names of God. It's a title that spans centuries of history, going from ancient Middle Eastern battlefields all the way to the core framework of Christian theology, completely shaping how millions of people understand divine power.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting 5 key areas: defining El Gibbor, the kingdom of Judah, historical biblical events, the messianic prophecy, and finally, Jesus Christ as fulfillment. All right, let's jump right into section 1, defining El Gibbor, the vocabulary of a warrior. When we look closely at the raw language here, the imagery is distinctly focused on a champion, a hero who is completely undefeated in battle. The word El is a foundational Hebrew term meaning God, the mighty one or the strong one. But it's that second word, Gibbor, that really brings the action. Gibbor isn't just about sitting around with passive strength. It refers specifically to a warrior, a champion, or a powerful hero in the context of a conflict. In the ancient Near East, where rival deities were literally viewed by different cultures as combatants leading armies, combining these two words created a profoundly potent and culturally resonant claim about ultimate supremacy. So this gets translated most commonly as mighty God, and it carries this heavy nuance of a powerful warrior god, but, and this is super important, this isn't just about flexing divine muscles or some kind of military domination. The real emphasis of El Gibbor is on a divine power that's specifically directed toward the ability to save and deliver, its strength with a distinct redemptive purpose. The absolute divine strength, victory, and authority locked up in this title are always tied to intervening on behalf of the vulnerable or the oppressed. Moving on to section 2, the kingdom of Judah, context of the prophecy. To really deeply understand this prophetic title, we have to look at the severe ground-level reality of Judah during the 8th century BC, which was the time of the prophet Isaiah. The kingdom was completely trapped in the crosshairs of the Syro-Ephraimite War, and they're facing the terrifying, relentless expansion of the Assyrian Empire. King Ahaz and the people of Judah were paralyzed. We're talking intense political unrest, the very real threat of immediate invasion, and widespread spiritual darkness. The nation was essentially defenseless. Yet directly into this exact geopolitical terror, a message of immense hope arrives. The text records a promise of a child who wouldn't just reign as a temporary, flawed politician, but as an eternal Prince of Peace. Which brings us to section 3, historical biblical events, the warrior in action.
Now, long before Isaiah's prophecy was ever delivered, the biblical narrative had already established a massive track record for this divine warrior acting within human history. Look at the timeline here. Around 1446 BC, this power is explicitly demonstrated in the deliverance from Egypt. And then, just days later, the miraculous crossing of the Red Sea, where Pharaoh's pursuing forces were totally defeated. Over the following decades during the conquest, and for centuries after through the period of the Judges and Kings, this exact same power is cited in the continuous protection of the covenant people. The text essentially establishes El Gibbor as a warrior who consistently overcomes evil and rescues the oppressed in tangible historical moments.
The absolutely crucial point anchored in this source text is that the limitless strength of El Gibbor is fundamentally redemptive. Check out these key verses. Exodus 15:3 boldly declares, "The Lord is a man of war," which demonstrates direct power in battle. Psalm 24:8 asks, "Who is this King of glory? The Lord, strong and mighty," showing his limitless power over all creation and historical events. And then, perhaps most significantly, Isaiah 63:1 describes God as mighty to save. The biblical text makes it crystal clear this strength is never just destructive. It is deeply and purposefully engineered for salvation. All right, section 4. The messianic prophecy, looking to the future. So Isaiah 9:6 prophetically drops this divine title, El Gibbor, right onto a promised child. That means the coming Messiah wouldn't just be a human king, but would carry true divine authority. And we have to pause here, because in the context of strict monotheistic Israel, applying a deity title to a human baby was a revolutionary, honestly shocking shift. The prophet states, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given." But the titles given, Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, those are absolutely not normal titles for a human monarch. By calling this promised child El Gibbor, the prophecy flat out identifies the coming Messiah as sharing the very identity and undefeatable power of God himself. Because let's face it, human strength is temporary. Human rulers weaken, and these massive, powerful empires like the Assyrians, they eventually fall into ruin. But the kingdom established by El Gibbor is presented as completely different. As Isaiah 9:7 says, of the increase of his government and of peace there will be no end. The sovereignty of this mighty God ensures a dominion marked by never-ending justice and righteousness. It's a kingdom built to literally outlast history itself.
And that brings us to Section 5, Jesus Christ as fulfillment, the ultimate El Gibbor.
When we turn to the New Testament, it presents Jesus exercising the exact limitless power and authority of El Gibbor. But it happens in entirely unexpected ways. When you read through the Gospels, Jesus doesn't raise a physical army to fight the Roman occupation. Instead, the text shows him displaying authority over nature just by speaking and calming a stormy sea. He exerts power over disease simply by touching the sick, and they're instantly healed. He commands life by raising the dead, and he claims absolute authority over the spiritual realm by forgiving sins. Within Christian theology, these specific actions are viewed as the unmistakable fingerprints of the mighty God revealed in human form.
The incredible theological plot twist here is that the New Testament framework totally inverts the traditional understanding of power. As Colossians 2:9 notes, "For in him the whole fullness of deity dwells bodily." But from the Christian perspective, the supreme victory of El Gibbor is won not through military conquest, but through obedience, through the sacrifice of the cross, culminating in the resurrection. It is a stunning reversal. True, ultimate power is exercised through self-giving love and submission in order to defeat evil and death right at their very root.
You see, the biblical narrative consistently presents this grand conflict between righteousness and evil, spanning all the way from Genesis to the very end of the text. And the resounding conclusion to this massive conflict is captured perfectly by the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians. Thanks be to God who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. That beautifully summarizes the whole concept of El Gibbor as the victorious God whose overarching purposes over evil simply cannot fail.
So why does all this matter to you today? Well, for those who follow this text, the concept of El Gibbor isn't just trapped in the ancient past as some historical trivia. It's intended to be an active, continuous source of strength right now. Texts like Isaiah 40 state that God gives power to the faint, while New Testament writings like Ephesians 6 encourage followers to be strong in the Lord's might. The underlying theology here is that the divine warrior empowers his people precisely in their moments of weakness, in their suffering, or during spiritual battle, offering this incredible foundation of courage regardless of what's happening around them.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to consider how this ancient framework totally shifts our understanding of conflict and strength. When early believers were facing severe anxieties, uncertainties, or outright oppression, understanding their God as El Gibbor, the undefeated warrior mighty to save, it completely reframed their perspective on their struggles. So I want to leave you with a fascinating question to ponder regarding this theology as you go about your day. How does viewing ultimate power through the lens of redemptive sacrifice change the way you understand victory itself?